time for another award-winning mailbag edition of the Ravens Rundown. Tyler Jones, your fearless leader, here with you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us. We will take your questions and we will answer them. And you can use the hashtag Ravens or Super Chat to get on the said mailbag. This comes from our live shows that we're doing here on the channel now. And if you subscribe, then you'll know when we go live. We're going live about every other week or so. And so stay plugged away, turn on notifications so you never miss a moment, and join us for our weekly mailbags here on the Ravens Rundown. Let's go ahead and get started. Our first question in the inbox this week comes from Jacob. Do you think if Lamar gets traded, to trade up to maybe get Will Levis? So what Jacob's asking is, if Lamar's gone, is there a situation where the Ravens end up moving on up with trade capital to get Will Levis? I think anything is on the table at this point. Until we have a solution as far as Lamar Jackson's future goes, anything is on the table until there's an answer one way or the other. Personally, I'm not a fan of Anthony Richardson. Will Levis is not my favorite, but I do like Will Levis a lot better than I do Anthony Richardson. I like Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud a lot more. To me, I look at this. If you are going to move on from Lamar Jackson, then you might as well just go ahead and reset the clock on the rookie quarterback scale and save some money while you're at it, invest in a young guy, and then try to do everything from there at that point. To me, Will Levis could be an option potentially, but we still got to see what the answer is with Lamar Jackson. I think that's certainly possible. Good Boy says, Tyler, you told us a long time ago that the Ravens' number one offensive coordinator target should be Todd Monken. How does it feel that they listen to you, and how are you so right all the time? Well, Good Boy 24, that's a great question. It's hard being right all the time, but you know what? Somebody's got to do it. Todd Monken, great choice to be the new offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. Comes over from the Georgia Bulldogs, where he won 2 national titles as OC, has previous experience in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as an offensive coordinator there. We saw him in the college ranks previously with Southern Miss as well as Oklahoma State. And I have followed Todd Monken closely for a very long time. And the thing that I've noticed about Todd over the years is you go back to the Oklahoma State days, and they were a run-and-gun team. They threw the football a whole lot. They were scoring and moving the football as quickly as possible. Fast forward to 2022, this Georgia offense, which got Stetson Bennett, of all people, to be looking good, turned him into a Heisman finalist, which is, a hell of a coaching job in its own right. That offense that they ran was totally different than what he did at Oklahoma State. He adapted to the personnel that he had there. The things you could do with Stetson Bennett, you couldn't necessarily do with Brandon Weeden back in the day. And credit to Todd Monken for adapting and adjusting. I think what Todd Monken is going to do, Greg Roman had a system, and things had to be run the Greg Roman way. It was his way or the highway, or they failed. And they did fall on their face a few times. I think Todd is going to adjust accordingly to what they can get the most out of the Ravens offense, and he'll do a very good job at that. Grade the hire of Todd Monken for me. What do you think of the job that John Harbaugh and company did to bring in Todd Monken to be the new OC? Scale it for me, A, B, C, D, or F in the comments section. I'm going A+, quite frankly. He was number one on my board months ago. Glad the Ravens listen. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. Get your votes in. Tell me A, B, C, D, or F grading the hire. BJ writes, if Lamar does stay for the 2023 through 2024 season, will he be out for half the season / postseason? I think we're talking about the injury, right, with that BJ is referring to. I think Lamar, it seems like we haven't heard anything that he is going to be held back of some sort. It seems like all signs point to that Lamar should be able to take the offseason to recover from said injury. Now, will he re-injure it or deal with another injury? That remains to be seen. But everything seems like Lamar should be A-OK, ready to go next season as far as I'm concerned. But very good point, PJ, for sure. Dennis writes, do you think we can land Mike Evans now that we have Todd Monken as offensive coordinator? Dennis, very good question. That certainly could be possible. I think that there's about 3 or 4 guys on the potential wide receiver trade market that should all have the Ravens' interest. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin there in Tampa Bay. And then you also are going to look at DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona. He is going to be another option there as well. Those are some of the few names that I would think of. And I think if you're the Baltimore Ravens, you would be happy to have any of those guys as far as I'm concerned. You'd like to make a move potentially and see what you could bring in as far as that goes. To me, all of that, if DeCosta and company say we want to throw the football and we want to get better receivers in, then yeah, that certainly increases the chances for Mike Evans there. William writes in, who's your favorite player? William checking in from Liverpool, and I'm sure he wants me to give him the wave, so here you go, even though I hate the wave, but there you go, William. Who is your favorite player? And I love that he spelled this with the English way of spelling favorite with the OU. I speak American, quite frankly, and usually don't spell it that way, but nonetheless, William, my favorite player on this Ravens team, I got to go. I know this might be a cop-out answer, but for me, I'll do offense and defense, so I don't look like a cop-out answer. I love what Roquan Smith did for this Ravens team. On defense, the way that he came in and brought such a force and an impact, he looked like an old-school Ravens player that we would have seen back in the day in that 2000s defense that won the Super Bowl and some of those things. He feels like what we think of Baltimore Ravens greats defensively. Offensively, for me, it's Mark Andrews. I have loved Mark Andrews since he was at the University of Oklahoma, and Mark Andrews, for me, is got everything you could want in a tight end. And if the Ravens renew their commitment to the passing game, if Todd Monken can figure this out, I think we're looking at Mark Andrews potentially having the best year of his career this upcoming season. If he stays healthy, they figure out the passing attack like they should, watch out for Mark Andrews to have a big year. Those are my two favorite guys. Speaking of Mark Andrews, we got Mandrews in the chat. Mandrews for president, El Presidente. Any chance Baltimore could be interested in signing Jimmy G in free agency? So earlier this week, we did a video talking about that there was potential interest in Baltimore in Baker Mayfield, that was a possibility. And it feels like ever since last offseason, you can't talk about Baker Mayfield without talking about Jimmy Garappolo. And so if Lamar moves on, if they do trade him, then all options are off the table. Jimmy G could be a guy. Baker Mayfield could be a guy. I hope it's not Derek Carr, but he could be an option potentially. There's a number of names. Nothing is not on the table. I prefer to go with a young quarterback to draft somebody if Lamar is gone and do things that way, but Jimmy G could be possible. We'll see. Jimmy G's been a winner. Say what you want about Jimmy G, but he's won a lot of football games over the years. Should the Ravens sign Jimmy G? What do you think about the idea of bringing James Garappolo to the Baltimore Ravens? If you like that idea, type S for sign. If you don't like that idea, type P for pass. Let me know what you think. S for sign, P for pass on the idea of Jimmy Garappolo joining the Ravens. BJ, we got a Madden question in. I think it's supposed to be is Madden 23 overrated, yes or no? I do love to play some football video games from time to time. In particular, I still play NCAA 14. Madden has sucked for, a decade now. Madden's been terrible. And it's a real shame because Madden has the potential. It should be a great video game, but it's not. Madden has been a disappointment for a long time. I would love for Madden to be good again. I am on a moratorium where I am not buying a new game system, a Xbox, what's the new Xbox called? Is it the Xbox One now or whatever the new one is? And the PS5 until either Madden gets fixed or there's a new college football video game that's out. And so far, I'm waiting quite a bit for either one. Al writes, if Lamar is traded, what should the Ravens do at quarterback? Great question. I prefer to go young. I would prefer to go draft one of those top three quarterbacks, whether it be a Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, or Will Levis. That's my order of preference. But beyond that, if it's not one of those three guys, then you look at veterans, Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo, some placeholder of some sorts, and then you find your quarterback next year. Think about this, too, as far as next year goes. Again, this is all if Lamar is gone. Next year's draft class of quarterbacks looks fantastic. Caleb Williams is going to be a star. Drake May looks great. You got Quinn Ewers potentially next year's draft. Look out. There's some good options next year as well. You don't even necessarily have to get the quarterback this year if Lamar's gone. You could wait till next year, too. Who will be the Ravens starting quarterback week 1? Will it be Lamar Jackson? Will it be somebody else? Who is going to be the starter for the Ravens when the season begins in 2023? Let me know in the comments section below. Drippy writes, how do you feel if the Ravens draft Jordan Addison? I would love drafting Jordan Addison. The top 3 receivers in this draft, you got Jordan Addison, you got Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then you also have Quentin Johnston from TCU. I like all 3 receivers myself. I think if you pull off any of those 3, you're feeling pretty good. I like Johnston, Smith, and Jigba, and Addison in that order, but I don't feel like you're pissed off. You're like, man, we ended up with Addison. We didn't get one of the 2. I don't think you're mad about that. If that's the way the cookie crumbles, so be it. I think you're doing just fine if you grab any of those 3. But Jordan Addison, I think, has potential to be a really good football player in the National Football League, as do the other 2 receivers. Other than a wide receiver, what do you think the Ravens need? Very good question when you look at this Ravens team and what they need. I think you're looking at the interior of the offensive line, the guard spots in particular. I think they should bring back Ben Powers, but they might not have the money to bring back Ben Powers. You look at the defensive side of the ball, you need help at edge rusher. You got some older guys there. Defensive line, I know that it looks like Calais Campbell is coming back, but wouldn't it hurt to find some younger guys there? And then the cornerback position. Marcus Peters probably not coming back. Probably need to find another cornerback there to bring in potentially as far as that goes. So we'll see what they do there. But to me, this team's not far off. They're a couple players away from being right there among the best in the AFC. Dennis writes, should we draft Georgia quarterback in the late rounds? This is going to be something that I think comes up for quite a bit with Todd Monken now getting the OC job. Should they draft Stetson Bennett? No, and no. Stetson Bennett is not an NFL quarterback. I'm sorry. I would not waste my time on Stetson Bennett. I am not interested in Stetson Bennett. He accomplished a lot in college, but he way overachieved as far as I'm concerned. Stetson Bennett's going to have a nice life, on a country club and enjoying things like that, but he's not an NFL quarterback. I'm sorry, no. I would not want Stetson Bennett on my team. Sorry, it's just not there. Brandon writes, do you think the Ravens should trade Justin Madubuike because he only had 5.5 in quarterback tackles? I think he means sacks. Potentially, and that's something that we got a trade video out on the channel this week, and he's a name that we've discussed. We'll go over that. If you haven't looked at that, check it out on the channel if you would. But, folks, appreciate you joining us. Make sure to subscribe. We're talking about your Baltimore Ravens all the time. We're growing. We're getting so close to 9,000 subscribers here on the Ravens Rundown. I've said when we get to 9,000, I'm going to take 9 shots on this show. That's what we're going to do. But we need to get there first. And we are growing rapidly. The more we grow, the more live shows we can do. We can talk about trades, free agency, draft, all of that right here on the channel. Doesn't cost you a thing. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. I'll see you next time here on The Rundown.